Hey everybody, welcome to Hot in Palm Springs on the PromoHomo.TV network. This is one of 5 regular programs coming at you. Find them all at the website PromoHomo.TV. Even if it wasn't over 100 degrees every day in July when this broadcast is originating here in Palm Springs, Charlie Harding, Mr. Palm Springs Leather 2020, would still be considered by many as hot in Palm Springs. In this episode, we're going to explore his world, which began in the public eye as an award-winning adult film star and fitness art model. Charlie starred in over 30 scenes, won multiple awards, and since retiring from porn, he has transitioned back into mainstream entertainment and art. And usually at the top of my show, I play the video that you just watched now and the video that you're about to see at the beginning. So here's a little short intro to this particular show. So I have actually interviewed members of the leather community before. I've actually interviewed a Mr. Palm Springs Leather before. And one of the things I'm very clear about is that the leather community is extremely philanthropic in everything that they do. And one of the significant roles of a title holder is to really identify various charities and organizations and raise money for them. And with that, I'm going to bring to the show Charlie Harding, who is Mr. Palm Springs Leather 2020. Hi, Charlie.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I see you're in your official attire.
Of course. You know, I like to, even when it's 110 degrees outside, I may stay in the air conditioning, but I'll at least try to do some leather.
Well, you know, I don't really notice how hot it is outside because I'm inside air conditioning all the time.
Exactly.
Now, one of the things that I would love to start with is that many people have a sense of what the leather community is. Some people have never heard of it. Some people are shocked by the notion of it. Other people see it as tame. What would you like to say? Sort of give us a leather community 101.
All right. So leather community is just that. It is a community. It is a bonding group. For myself, I call it a brotherhood, being he, him, his. But it's all inclusive, LGBTQ plus. And so basically what we are is a group of semi-like-minded individuals. Now, some of us are into more kinks than others. Some are into it more for the brotherhood. Some are more into it because it's a great way to build a philanthropic platform, that kind of thing. But basically, we all love leather. That's step one, obviously. And then from there, we definitely push ourselves through our kinks and our sexual interests and that kind of thing to kind of come together and discuss and explore and that sort.
I've just put a comment on the screen for our viewers that if they're watching live, they can comment, they can ask questions, they can interact. So, is participation in the leather community necessarily a sexual experience?
Well, the leather community comes out of a sexual history. You know, we were created, if you will. We came from, if you want to go there with that, we started in a sexual fetish sort of realm, and then based on the bars and such many years ago, the community started to come together more organized, and creating groups of like-minded individuals. And then from there, it moved on into leather contests, that sort of thing, and has really become both kind of an activist organization as well as a sexual fetish camaraderie.
I'm going to dive more deeply into different aspects of the leather community a bit later, but one of the things I'd like for you to talk about now is the specific leather competitions, how they come about on a local level and proceed to the international Mr. Leather contest. And I would like to say that there are plenty of women and people of all gender identities who participate in leather communities. For the purpose of this conversation, we're talking about your experience in the gay male-identified leather community and those competitions that do lead into international Mr. Leather.
Right.
So describe it at the local level and tell us how someone ultimately ends up taking the stage at IML.
Gotcha. So, well, basically, the way it starts is number one, you have to realize you're into leather. You have to have an interest in leather. You have to kind of live. I don't like the word lifestyle. I like the word life. So you live the leather life. And then from there, the different organizations within our community will either nominate or have competitions on their small local level to present a candidate. So, for example, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence will have a contest, and then their contestant will move on. Many of the bars will have specific contestants that they'll have either appoint or have contests to win, and then from there you move on to Mr. Palm Springs Leather. My year, we had 7 contestants, and it's all part of Palm Springs Leather Pride weekend. And from there, if you go through all the different categories and such, with talking about speeches involved, with what you're involved with, where you come from, that sort of thing. You do a couple different leather aesthetic outfits, that sort of thing. You do
kind of like a beauty pageant.
Sorta. It has a little bit of a similarity to it, just with a much more sexual fetish side.
What bar sponsored? Were you affiliated with a bar in your competition?
Yes, I was Mr. Hunter's Leather.
Mr.
And then
Hunters.
from there, moved on to compete for Mr. Palm Springs Leather, which is now Mr. Palm Springs Leather 2020.
I just want to give a shout out to Hunters and Mark Hunter and the entire bar here in Palm Springs and in Florida. What is the name of the neighborhood in Florida where that bar is? It's a famous gay neighborhood.
Wilton
yes,
Manors.
Wilton Manors. Yes, thank you for that. Because like many bar owners, Hunters has been extremely philanthropic and supportive in so many ways across the decades. So I just want to give a shout out to them. So you're Mr. Hunters. You make it into
Palm. I was Mr. Hunter's Leather. And a big shout out from me to Christopher Durbin, who was my mentor from Hunters, that helped me prepare, along with some other folks, to actually compete for Mr. Palm Springs Leather. So that's kind of where I got my beginning, and then went through the process with Mr. Palm Springs Leather. And, from there, I will be one of roughly 60 to 70 contestants that will participate in International Mr. Leather in Chicago.
And you have specific charities that you are supporting. Talk about the specific charities you're raising money for and how you came to choose them.
Sure. Well, my big philanthropic philosophy revolves around making people's lives better to improve their mental health. When you have a group of individuals that you can feel as a community to be around, you'll typically have more support. And that can range from activities that you want to be involved with like-minded individuals. It could be a leather group. It could be a BDSM group. It could be a choir. There are all sorts of different opportunities and things that you can participate in that can help your mental health, can help keep you grounded, can help you feel like you're included and you're not alone. And so I specifically look for charities, organizations, and the like that subscribe to that and also provide opportunities. So, for example, the Cathedral City High School choirs were attempting to get a trip to New York paid for, and were running a little bit behind on their fundraising. So I immediately jumped in with Patsy, you know, Patsy from her Dinners with Patsy. And
I do.
together we raised the last $2,000 that they needed to be able to do their New York trip. Other organizations, you know, I've worked with the Transgender Center here in the Valley to raise money for them so they can provide services for the transgender community. I've raised money for the center, the LGBTQ plus center here in the Valley. I've raised money for Desert AIDS Project. Any organization that I feel has a grounded beginning and then also is encouraging people to feel better, to encourage better mental health, to keep people a little more included and feeling like they're part of a community is who I'll look for. And I'm always looking for additional organizations that might need some help with fundraising, might need some help with volunteering and that kind of thing. So if anybody out there has an organization or is a member of an organization that they think would be important for me to work with, please get in touch.
Now, I'm bringing up a photo of you in your Mr. Palm Springs leather sash.
Yes.
That is passed along, that particular sash, is that passed along each year to the winner?
Yes, exactly. The Mr. Palm Springs Leather Contest is run by the Palm Springs Leather Order of the Desert, the PSLOD. And they are the ones who basically produced my sash, and then each year that sash is passed on to the next winner.
Okay. Do they ever wash it?
Well, it's leather, so you can't like wash it, but just like everything else with leather, you have to condition it, you have to take care of it, you know, because you don't want it to dry out and crack.
That was a joke, actually. Some people wouldn't want you to wash it.
That's
so,
true. Well, there are some secret traditions of things you're, how shall I put this, supposed to do in your sash after winning it before you pass it on to the next person.
Okay, then. Tell me about this photo shoot. I love this photo of you.
Oh, thank you. This was actually by photographer Stephen Michael. He's an amazing photographer here in the Palm Springs area. He and I worked together a few times, actually, on a bunch of different shoots. And this was one where went to his studio, and we were just playing around and trying to decide, you know, what backgrounds, how to try to push as much of my personality and my intensity and my energy through a photo. And with his extremely amazing artistic talent, he was able to snap that picture.
Well, I just want to give a shout out to Stephen as well. I know him. I didn't realize he took that particular photo, but he is such a genuinely supportive person of so many different people and charities, and in his own competitions. He's in the pageant circle.
Right. He does the men's pageant realm. So, you know, he and I have bonded over our different experiences through our philanthropic ventures, just as friends, and then also through our competition, different ventures.
Well, you sent me a variety of photos to choose from, and I found that one to be the most compelling. So, kudos to both of you. Before I dive more into the intricacies of the leather community, are there any particular projects you're working on now or activities that you would like the viewers to be aware about and perhaps engage with?
Sure. You know, given the current situation, I guess you could say, in our world between dealing with racial injustice, dealing with the pandemic, all of that has kind of put everybody on edge. You know, one of the big things is working towards giving people a better quality of life through organizations and that sort. So, like I said, I'm hopefully working out some different philanthropic things we can do. Like in the past, I've done leather auctions. I've done, you know, I partnered with Revivals to do the Revivals After Dark, where basically we went and sold everything that they can't exactly put on the sales floor during the day. But with an over 21 event, we can bring out the more racy stuff, all the leather, all the kink toys, and that kind of thing that they've gotten. And then we split the money up amongst charities. So I'm hoping to do another one of those coming up. I've also done what I call my used leather sales, where I get donations from the leather community and then basically almost kind of do a yard sale. And I love those because it gives folks a chance to explore leather without having the higher price tag that you're typically stuck with when you want to get something brand new. So people can, instead of spending $300, for example, on a leather shirt, they can spend $75 and, kind of explore their opportunity, get a harness for relatively inexpensive, that kind of thing. And then from there, decide if it's for them and then move on, into their journey in leather. I also am, hopefully, we're working on maybe putting together a food bank, because right now with everybody not working and, reduced hours and that sort of thing, people are having a bit of a hard time deciding whether they're going to eat or they're going to pay their rent even. So we're working with a couple of the different bars in the area to try to put together a food bank for Palm Springs. So that one's to be continued. And then, I also like I said, I'm big into art. I'm an abstract painter and collage artist and all that. So one of the other things I'm doing is I'm getting donations from the community that have to do with art and eroticism, sexualism, specifically male identified items, so that I can do an art auction as well. And then again, raise money to then donate to specific charities as I see the need.
That's fantastic. I want to go back to what you said about Revivals. So Revivals has 3 locations in the Coachella Valley. The proceeds benefit Desert AIDS Project. And without knowing that we would be talking about it today, I'm actually wearing 3 articles of clothing right now from Revivals. My shirt.
I get a lot of my regular
I'm
clothes.
I'm wearing this shirt, a pair of shorts which you cannot see, and a lovely pair of boxer shorts. And people get weirded out. You buy used underwear? Yes, I buy used underwear. I have the most fantastic collection of underwear. Revivals never puts anything out on their floor that isn't clean and up to all kinds of codes and everything else.
Right. It sounds to me like you might have a little fetish there. I don't know.
Yeah, a fetish for low prices.
That's awesome.
Well, that is a good segue. But before I get into, I've been teasing the audience about doing a deeper dive into the leather community, which we're about to do. But Charlie, how do people reach you?
Yeah, you can reach me through my email, which is Mr. Palm Springs Leather 2020 @gmail.com. It's kind of a long one. Or I'm on Facebook under Charlie Harding. You can always inbox me there, or on Instagram as Mr. C. Harding. That's Mr. the letter C, HARDING. So those are probably the 3 easiest ways to get in touch with me.
You have a big social media following. I should have paused after big, and then said social media following. I thought about it too late. So this episode will be uploaded to IGTV. It will tag you, and your entire Instagram following will be able to engage with it. It's already broadcasting right now on Periscope, and your Twitter handle is tagged. So people will be able to engage with this episode.
Oh, great! That's awesome.
So, when I was coming out in my early 20s and the early 80s in Arizona, I was with some friends and we were at a gay event and they wanted me to try on a leather vest, and I did, and they went ooh and ah and gaga. And you know what? I can honestly say I don't have a fetish about leather, but I do definitely like to. Well, I don't mind saying this publicly. I'm a very open book. But I want to be with a sexual partner who's in charge I like the dynamic of being more submissive sexually.
Mhm.
And there is quite an overlap in the leather community and the. I'm not into pain, so I don't even know if I would say I'm a part of the S&M. If I have an S&M fetish, I do know I definitely like the concept of dominance and submission.
Well, that's another fetish, as we describe it, is the dom sub fetish. So, you fit right in.
So there's all these overlapping aspects within the leather community. There's the specific fetish of leather. There's the overlap of S&M and dominance and submission, and I imagine that there's even overlap within the bear community. The bear and
Oh,
the
yeah.
leather community must have a huge overlap. So. And then because the leather community is so sex positive, there's a strong overlap with sexuality in all shapes and forms. I guess that you could say for people that are willing to step into it, the leather world could be a very freeing and liberating place.
It really is. The leather community can involve anybody from a 21-year-old twink who is dominant or submissive up to bears. It crosses races. It's one of those things. What always draws us back together is our sexuality and our sexual interests. So you might be into flogging and whipping or spanking or water sports or like you said, dominant and submission play. It's there are so many options within the kink community as a whole that translate directly into the leather community. Now, again, not every person that's into leather has some very extreme kink. Leather is a spectrum. You'll have the guy on one end who buys a harness to wear to white party because he likes the way harnesses look and that sort of thing. And then on the other end, you'll have somebody who's in, for example, the Gear 365 group. You can check it out with hashtag Gear 365 on Facebook. And those are people who wear some form of leather 365 days a year. So, just from an aesthetic standpoint, you'll have a spectrum of people. And then from the sexual kink life standpoint, you'll have folks that only go out on the weekend to participate in the leather community. You'll have other folks who live a leather life, for example, say as a dom and a sub, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And then everybody just kind of figures out where they fit in that spectrum.
And what a spectrum it is. What are the most common questions you get from an outsider to the leather
Well, like
community?
one of the ones that you just mentioned was, are you into pain? A lot of folks assume that because you're into the leather community, you like to get hurt or you like to hurt people. That's a complete falsehood.
I don't.
Uh,
I just want to clarify. I know that, but there
mhm.
is a overlap between the
Right. There's a definite overlap between
BDSM and leather
S&M and
community. But a
BDSM.
lot of people think that inherent. So what you're saying is a lot of people inherently think that leather means you're into pain.
Right. And don't get me wrong, the leather community has a huge BDSM contingent in it. But like I was kind of saying earlier, I can elaborate. You'll also have folks that are into various sexual act kinks and that sort of thing. And then you'll have other folks that may just be into it because they like uniforms, or there'll be folks that are into it because they like the way the leather feels. And they like to have sex with their boots on, that kind of thing. So, again, if you can think of something sexual to do, chances are there are people within the leather community that like to do it too.
Yes, and I'm sure the people that want to have sex with their boots on, if they happen to be using a bed, remove the high thread count linens and put on a
Exactly. That's
leather
when you get what's
sheet.
called play sheets. The
Play
neoprene
sheets,
play
yes.
sheets are really good.
Yes, I think I'll stick with my high thread count linens. But so now the other thing, it's not the biggest thing about your biography, but When and how did you get into porn, and what was sort of the emotional decision-making process that went into it? And this is a loaded question, but did you get into it out of true desire or to meet some sort of financial need? How did it happen?
Well, like I said in the bio, I used to do some art and fitness modeling. And what happened was one of the photographers that I worked with was friends with a producer and sent my photos over and said, here's the most recent photo set I did. What do you think? Da, 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 da. And they asked him to put me in touch with them because they were interested in the nude shots that I'd done and maybe potentially bringing me into the adult film world. Um, I'm one of those that has never said never to try it at least once. May not be something, think of it like food. You may try a certain ethnicity of food and say, well, I tried it, but I don't like it anymore. That's how I felt about porn. I was like, well, let's try it. And if I hate it, I hate it. And if I like it, I like it. So I flew out to California with Raging Stallion and Falcon and shot 2 scenes. And they recruited me and did the 2 scenes and was like, this is kind of fun. This is kind of interesting. And I can make a business out of it. I can create, this on-screen character and kind of live out some fantasy, live out sex with a lot of the folks that I watched on adult films and always wished I could have sex with them too. And that's kind of how I got into it. And, it just progressed from there.
Well, I want to thank you for your openness and your candidness. Is there anything that you would like to talk about that we haven't addressed in the interview?
You've covered a lot of it. Like you, I'm an open book and I talk about pretty much everything. So, other interesting things about me is that I'm left-handed. I have, no idea. I always like to give a couple things that people don't know that, as a leather man and as a retired adult film star, I love to be able to flesh that out so that that's not the only thing that defines me. Like I said earlier, I'm an abstract and modern art painter. I actually have my SAG-AFTRA card. I'm a professional actor, and I host a travel show on another network. So
you can talk about Here TV. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on Here TV, and I host a show called Underground, which is a gay travel show that basically goes to different cities, and we look at the things the locals do. We don't necessarily go to the ones that are in the tour guide books and that kind of thing. So we hit the more underground clubs. A lot of we tend to be a little kink and leather focused, and we put together a show for each city that gives everybody kind of a chance to see how the real flavor of the city. So, it's a lot of fun.
So you talk about being a retired porn star, and I know that this isn't a secret and you won't mind me bringing this up, but I also happen to know that you have an OnlyFans page.
Yes, I sure do.
So people can subscribe to you, and I imagine
that's a good point. Yeah, go to OnlyFans.
Right, so
look up Charlie Harding, and I'm on there.
Would you describe the content of your OnlyFans page as pornographic?
Oh yes, it definitely has sex involved and that kind of thing. I look at it as another opportunity to be an open book. For example, I have videos on there of me in the shower washing my dog, and then I'll also have videos of me having sex. So for me, it's not just a porn outlet; it's kind of a welcome to my world outlet.
Now, do you make much money from that?
I make a little. It's definitely not something that right now I would focus on as my primary income. But
I bet you there are some people getting rich on OnlyFans.
Oh yeah, no, I was going to say I have 2 or 3 friends of mine that make multiple thousands of dollars a month. Like I have one friend that makes a 5-figure income every month off of it, and then a lot of my other folks, will pay their rent for 6 months within 1 month as well, that kind of thing. So it's definitely a money-making opportunity for anybody who's interested in being a part of it. And one of the things I like about OnlyFans too is the diversity. There are a little bit of everybody. There's, no matter what your flavor, there's probably an OnlyFans page for you.
One of the questions I've been dying to ask, and I've been moderating about whether or not I should. What are your favorite 3 keywords to search on Pornhub to find your
Oh,
ideal
Lord.
video?
Well, I will say that I am one of those that, because I've been in the porn industry, studio porn, that's very edited and that kind of thing, doesn't do it for me anymore, because I know the behind the scenes. So I see something going on the screen and I'm like, oh, that's how they shot that, because I used to produce and direct as well. So I'm like, oh, that's a great angle. Oh, that's really cool how they produced that. Oh, that was a great segue. And I'm like, no, it completely distracts from the whole reason you're typically watching porn. So amateur is one of the definite things that I look for. Public or outside would be another one. And let's see, a third one would be probably groups.
Okay.
So,
I frankly think you can learn a lot about people if you ask them what keywords they use to search
definitely.
on Pornhub.
Yeah.
But just to throw it out there, I'm not interested in anything that was produced. I'm not interested. Generally, I'm turned off if it's clear that there's a third person involved in the scenario operating a camera. I like things that are more organic than that.
Exactly.
Is there anything you would like to say in conclusion?
Well, like I said earlier, I am an artist. I've got a lot of artworks for sale on my Facebook page. So if anybody's interested in making your walls more beautiful, feel free to get in touch with me there. Check out what I've done, and I do commissions as well. Also have a page, Charlie Harding art.net, that you can look at some of my older works. And I'm always looking for fun folks to meet, once we can go out again, whatever that may be.
Sure.
And I'm always up for a good conversation.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be with me today, and I want to invite your friends and colleagues that see this. I think they might be a good match for my show to reach out to me at PromoHomo.TV. And thank you for your philanthropy and your community service.
Oh, you're very welcome. I've been doing it for years, and I just love the fact that being Mr. Palm Springs Leather 2020 is kind of giving me an additional platform and an additional voice. So,
well, I believe we should all express the truth of our life force in a way that makes a difference. And the more that we share our own truth, the more that we create conversations that facilitate understanding and eliminate ignorance.
Exactly. So, and make people feel like they're more a part of a real community. So.
And everyone simply wants to belong, right?
Exactly. You want to feel like you're not alone. Chances are, no matter what it is that your interests are, there's somebody else that's interested in that as well.
Well, the fundamental goal of PromoHomo.TV is connecting the circuitry of humanity, and I'm very honored that my humanity is connected with yours and the audience today.
Ditto.
Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you soon.
Awesome. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks. So that's the great Charlie Harding. I really enjoyed my conversation with him. He asked me in advance if I knew what we were going to talk about, if I had specific questions in mind. I don't come up with questions in advance because I really love for the interviews to be organic. And by the way, Charlie, stay where you are and I can talk to you after the show. I like the interviews to be organic and unfold as they will. And today's show did just that. I noticed that the viewers, you've been shy today. No one commented, but I can see you were watching live. So you're always welcome to comment during and after the live broadcast. Until next time, I'm Nicholas Snow.